another up close video. Today's one is for a collection by Jane Gill for Woodware, and it's her doodled flowers kind of collection, so don't confuse it with Jane Doodles because she's just joined Creative Expression. So we've now got Jane Doodles collections, but now Jane Gill has done Doodle collection. So a little bit confusing, but this is Jane Gill's doodle flower kind of collection. I don't have everything, but I think there's 12 sets altogether, and I've got 8 of the 12 sets, and I've got a bunch of samples to show you with each of them. As I had them all here, I thought I might as well film one of these up close videos. I will link below the video, and also on my blog post there'll be the little picture links to all of the stamp sets, even though I haven't got all 12 of them to show you. I think the other 4 are more just floral sets, similar to some of the doodly ones that are in this set, but obviously different kind of flowers, different little extra elements and stuff that's in them, and different sentiments and things. But they're all other than there's like a stitched set, there's a set with the sort of bugs in there, there's an overall background set. I think most of the other ones are a similar concept. All the different sets, they're just different flowers, so you can kind of pick your favourites. But as I've done so many cards for samples for Creative Expressions, I thought I might as well just show you all of the ones that I've created. I've tried to split them up into which ones I've used with the different sets, so I'll bring each set in individually. So the first set I'm going to show you is the bug set, which is called Bug Doodles. Francoise Reed also, the other designer for Woodware, also brought out a bug set quite a while ago now. She had a moth set and a bug set as well. I feel like these would go really nicely with her bugs too. She had a gorgeous shield bug. I think it was a bigger scale and a bit more cartoony, but you could definitely pair some of these together, and I really like the simplicity of these. You've got like a beetle kind of bug with these little triangles on his back. You've got this gorgeous one here. I'm not sure if that's classed as a moth or a pond skater or a butterfly. I'm not 100% sure what all of these insects are, but gorgeous different ones for colouring in the wings. You could try and do some kind of like translucent effect on the wings, or you could make them really bright and colourful and stained glass looking, whatever you kind of prefer. I really enjoyed this little bug. I actually turned this one into a reef design, stamped it a bunch of times going around, and I coloured it with like tealy colours and purples, and it worked really, really nicely. This is kind of, I would think this is a butterfly kind of creature, but it definitely could be some kind of pond skater. Although I'm not sure if pond skaters have got really big wings. I haven't seen one in years, but it's a lovely cool little bug that you can see the side view of, which is different, because a lot of the times if you have a side view of a butterfly you can't see all of their legs. It's usually just the body with the side view of the wings, so it's quite nice to have the legs there because they can really be sitting on something, which is nice. I love the shield bug. I love these little things. You often see them sort of, you know, landing on plants or on the patio and stuff, and you can get them in browns and greens and stuff, but obviously you can go crazy colours with these. I think I did rainbow on my card for these ones. This one could be kind of like a pond skater, the way his legs are coming out like that. So this one hasn't got any wings. I mean it's got 8 legs, but I don't think that would be a spider because it's got the long body on it. I'm not 100% sure what all of these are, but yeah, there's all sorts of different bugs and creatures. Maybe they might even be made up. You never actually know. She could have gone from reference pictures, or they could actually be made up bugs, and here's me trying to name them and not actually a real one. But anyway, and you've also got this kind of beetly one as well with the sort of little feet. I like it when they have like little feet on the end of the little legs. So really cute little bug designs, and this one is the Bug Doodles. So this one, it's got a few elements from some of the other sets, so I might bring this one back in to show you those other elements, but this is that little side view of the kind of butterfly design here, and I ended up sticking this panel a bit far up. I wanted to have him sitting or standing on the edge of the frame, but I kind of stuck the panel too far up. But if you moved it a bit further down, you could definitely put him so his little legs were on the edge of the frame as well. But just a really, really simple design, a bit of opal blaze polish watered down and splattered onto the background there. I absolutely love that one. That's the teal raspberry colour. Absolutely beautiful, that one. Adore that one. And I've done a bit of ink blending and then a little bit of stamping in the background too. This is one of her border kind of stamps, which I'll show you later on as well, and then that's one of the sentiments from one of the large flower sets as well. Then also for bug cards, yeah, I did do rainbow bugs and beetles, so I've got the shield bugs and then like the beetle-y design going along here as well. And the way I did this is stamping the first one, moving the card up an inch and stamping it again using a stamping platform. You can definitely just eyeball it with an acrylic block, but I always find when you want to colour with your Copics or alcohol pens, you want to use obviously a specific type of black ink, and I always find those types of inks you kind of need to stamp them 2 or 3 times to get them nice and deep and dark and black. So I always want to use a stamping positioning kind of tool so I can restamp it, whereas if I had been watercolouring this I could have just used Versify and Claire and a acrylic block and just stamped them all as they are. But because I wanted a really deep dark impression, I was using the stamping platform for this, and I moved the card up an inch for the shield bugs and an inch and a half for the beetles to get the positioning right. So I did this row first and then this row. You can't do them both at the same time because of the difference in increments that you're moving them, but I feel like it makes a really cool effect on a card. And then there's all of this subtle detail in the background as well, which is 3 of the little swirly kind of designs that are from one of the other floral sets. And again, the Do More of What Makes Your Soul Happy is also on one of the other sets as well that you'll see. Then this one, I think this could be my favourite of all of the cards that I created with the bugs, and this was creating a wreath kind of design but not using a proper wreath builder, because I feel like sometimes those, I don't have a real proper wreath builder one. I tend to do the trick where you sort of die cut 2 of them at 45 degrees to each other to get the template, but I always feel like you're kind of wasting a bit of card because you have to work on a square, and I like rectangular cards, and then you've kind of got to think in your head, well, how big a piece of a card am I going to need to be able to cut it down and it be in the perfect position? So the cheats way of doing it is to use your stamping platform, because again I was using a Copic friendly ink and stamping it multiple times to get that deep dark outline. And then mine is a bit dirty with some other bits and pieces that I've been stamping, but I have a piece of acetate that I've written stamp on this side, and when I'm repositioning a stamp on my stamping platform, so say I've stamped this one up here, I stamp it multiple times to get it a deep dark black image, then I put that piece of acetate over the top that says stamp on this side reading the right way, so I know that the front side has the ink on it, place that over the top, then reposition my bug, and I repositioned it opposite, and then I pick that up with the lid, take away the acetate, stamp it multiple times, then I repeat the whole process and do the other 2 opposites, and then I just filled in the ones in between, and you can see from how their antennae overlap, it's not 100% perfect, but it's pretty close. I mean, and I feel like this is actually much quicker than doing one of those wreath builder kind of template ideas as well. For me it's quicker. I mean, if you love working on square cards, then obviously a wreath builder one is going to be perfect because you're working on a square and you get that perfect design straight away. But if I'm trying to work on a rectangular card, which is my favourite, I kind of just wing it and place them in the rough kind of position to get my sort of wreath kind of design. And again, I've used those same 3 stamps in the background, and that is using Lost Shadow Distress Oxide to stamp in the background after I've done all of the colouring, and the colouring is just Copics again. So really, really pretty. I really like how that one turned out. It's a really cool design. So next stamp set that I'm going to show you is this one, which is one of her large floral designs, and I think all of her sets sort of within this collection are a big large floral with a sentiment that will fit inside the floral, and then lots of other accent pieces, whether they're solid sort of designed doodly kind of elements that will fill in a background nicely, or can be stamped in black and coloured in as well, and obviously bits of foliage and stuff to expand on them. And this one actually has a bird in it, and one of the others has a little frog in it as well, which is really cute. But this set is called Petal Doodles Take Care, because it's got the take care of yourself sentiment in there, but it's a gorgeous like large tulip-y kind of design with these sort of almost like sunshiny pieces coming out the top of it. You've got the stalk on there, you've got this gorgeous leaf which makes a really good flower, and I've actually done that for one of my cards that I'll show you in a second. You can actually use that that leaf as a petal and turn it into a flower. And then you've got a solid little flower, which I had actually used in the background on that card there, and that's also the take care of yourself sentiment on that card there as well. And then you've also got a little 4-petaled flower with like tiny little lines coming out in between the petals, and a gorgeous heart as well. So a solid heart with a tiny little dotty border around the edge. And I actually turned my flower of this into a shaker, but I was also thinking you could do the negative masking, which is when you would take like one of these full sticky post-it notes, you would stamp the design onto the full sticky post-it note, and then instead of cutting around the design and putting it back on top, you actually pierce a hole through the middle and you cut out the middle, and then you place the square over the top. So you're protecting the outside, but you're leaving the whole of the inside of the flower open, and then you can actually use these different elements here in lots of different colours of ink and stamp them all over it to give the flower a pattern. But you've got this that protects the outside, and you can also ink blend and stuff in the centre then as well. Or you could do one of Francoise's favourite techniques, which is where you then stamp this design onto a piece of patterns paper, cut the patterns paper out, and then stick that on top to give the flower a pattern as well. So lots of different ways of kind of decorating gorgeous large flowers like this. But this is the flower that I made out of the leaf in this set, and I also used one of the flowers from a different set as well as the centre of the flower, just to make it look a little bit different. I've used the take care of yourself sentiment there as well, and that floral again with Lost Shadow Distress Oxide, just to give a subtle background pattern. And I have also accented with the Sakura Stardust Clear Jelly Roll pen in different areas as well, just to give a little bit of sparkle on there. And then for this one, so this is this leaf, I picked a specific way up that I wanted it to be. So the tiny skinny end, they all actually meet in the centre, and it's the wider end that's on the outside. But I did exactly the same thing that I was explaining with this bug card, but instead of doing the kind of lining them up at the crosses and filling in the intermediate sections, I just kept moving the stamp around like so, adding the acetate on between so I didn't get a dirty mark on my card. The good thing about that acetate trick, I don't know if you've ever seen it before, I think I have explained it once or twice in a couple of videos, but it's brilliant when you want to stamp the same stamp lots of times, but you don't want to have to keep cleaning your stamp, because I don't know if you like to create multiply stamped backgrounds a lot, but I do quite like that kind of effect. And so many times I've got almost to the end of a background, I've put the stamp down, and you know how lovely photopolymer stamps are sticky, they kind of stick to your finger when you're trying to place it down, and you move it and it gives us a black smudge where the stamp was obviously dirty, and then you can never get it perfectly lined back up over the top of that. So then you end up having to cover it with something later on. But having that acetate, you just put the acetate down, replace the stamp where you want it to be, pick it up on your door, remove the acetate, and then you can stamp it perfectly. It's so quick and easy, and it just saves so much frustration of accidentally moving a stamp, or you know, nudging it, or it, you know, sticking to your fingers when you're trying to maneuver it as well. It's just such a brilliant idea of you know, a way of creating these kind of multiply stamped images with being lazy and not cleaning your stamp between every single stamped impression. So that is how I did that card with the gorgeous flower. And then this is my shaker card that I did. So you can see what I was explaining about a negative mask. Basically with a mask you would have done this to it. So I actually made a hole in the centre and then cut around the inside of the tulip design, and that's how you would create the negative mask as well. And then you would put the mask around it and you could ink inside your flower too. But I turned this into a shaker card. I did put I put the sort of clear hexagons that are in the Cosmic Shimmer Glitter Jewels range, but I also put some frosted clear seed beads in there, and they got a little bit stuck here. I don't know if they will move, but they haven't moved since I've made it, but they just got a little tiny bit stuck there. But anything kind of clear I think works really nicely on a card like this, because I just did an ombre of colouring for the background, and also in the background I think you can just about see, there is stamping of a heart. So that on that one of those, oh no, it's on this stamp set. I've been talking about it for so long, I thought it was on a previous stamp set, but this little heart here, I actually stamped in the background behind as well. So you've got a little bit of heart detail in there, and then you've got the shading or ombre kind of effect of the colouring as well. And then I stamped the Take Care of Yourself onto there before I put the top of the shaker on too. So that is a really quick and easy shaker card, which I've done with this stamp set, but you can definitely do this with a lot of the stamp sets in this collection. They all lend themselves to be a great shaker card because of the way Jane has left enough space in the middle to put this large greeting. All of them will work really nicely. You can just cut out the centre and turn it into a shaker, or even have multiples on a card and do different colours in 3 different shakers on a card or something as well. So that is that set, which is called the Petal Doodles Take Care. Then the next one, you can see, has another floral with that large design in the centre. Again, great for the shaker card, but this one has a different sentiment. This one says, each day is a gift, and you also have this separate flower, which I think looks like a lily pad because you've got the little frog here as well, but you can put that flower in the centre of the large flower if you don't want to put the sentiment in there and you want something to fill it in. You also have this gorgeous dotty texture, really brilliant for just adding a little bit of colour to a background, or adding a little bit of texture to, maybe you've ink blended the centre of this in, but you want it to have a little bit of subtle interest in it. Just stamping this in the same colour you've ink blended with in the background a few times will just add that little bit of extra texture. You've got the gorgeous little frog or toad there as well. You've got this lovely squiggly kind of border, which, being photopolymer, you can manipulate that and make it into a curve, an arch, an S shape, a little wavy kind of design, and stamp it as well. And then you also have a leaf here too, so a lot of the sets have a separate leaf that you can use to build up a kind of design. And for example, this one, I didn't actually use it for this set. I did only do one card for this set, but you could, as I've shown on another card that I'll show you later, you could have this large bloom, make this the stalk of the flower, and then put the leaves coming off. And on the one I'll show you later, I had a big flower. I used one of her stitch borders as the stalk and then put the leaves on it. So there's so many different ways of mixing and matching all of these. And if I'd made a card with every single possibility, I think I'd be here till Christmas making different cards with these. So there's so many different ways that you can combine these together. And I actually think the doodly style of these would go really nicely with some of Francoise's previous collection. She did one a little while back with lots of gorgeous rainbows in. I think they would go really nicely with some of these florals, and you could have a beautiful rainbow in the background as well. But this one is called Petal Doodles It's a Gift. So each day is a gift kind of denotes the name of the set. So this is, I stamped the frog, masked him off, and then put the lily pad kind of design behind him. Now I know, because I masked him off, I covered the flower, which would have made it look more like a lily pad. But I think he looks really nice green on green. I think it works really well. And I did a bit of messy kind of colouring with like dots and stuff to make it look a little bit artsy. I thought that worked quite nicely. And then I've done each day is a gift. I've, in the background, used Lost Shadow Distress Oxide and used partials of that beautiful flower with the sticks with the circles on the end coming out of it. And then lots of this dotty pattern. And you can just stamp it first and second generation, twisting it around, moving it around, just to add some subtle interest. I've used water crystals to finish off the card as well. And then this gorgeous torn edge, I absolutely adore this. So this is the Decal Edge ruler. I've actually had this in my stash for ages, and it's been sat in my pot with all my other rulers, and I don't know why I just hadn't tried it to see what it was like. But since I have tried it, I've been like, why did I not try this before? It gives such a lovely edge. The way that has got the decal, it's got 2 different decal versions, but the way it has that decal and you tear against it, it just looks so cool. I don't think there's any other way you could achieve that, because if you just tear it yourself, you just get the fibres showing, but because of that edge of the ruler, you kind of get almost kind of like a die cut look, but then with the tear along the edge. It's really cool. I really, really like this ruler. If I can find it anywhere, I will link that below the video and in my blog post as well. But it's really, really cool. If you've never tried this before, it's a proper Creative Expressions one. It's really cool, and I do not know why I had not properly tried it before, but I'm definitely regretting not trying it before. But now I know that it's really cool. I've used it, you know, quite a few times on different projects. I don't think I've used it in a video yet, but I have used it quite a few times on different bits and pieces. But that is the little card that I created with this set, which is the It's a Gift set. Then the next one, you can tell by there being 4 cards on this one. This was one of the original sets I got sent, and I absolutely love this one. This, if I could properly draw in a proper style, this would be the kind of thing that I would doodle. It would be like lovely blooms like this. And this one is called Happy Soul. So they're all called Petal Doodles, and then this one's called Happy Soul, to go with the sentiment that says, do more of what makes your soul happy. And then I think if you could only get one set from this whole collection, this one would be a great one to go for, because you get 3 different flowers on a lovely small scale. So if you love your small cards, they're perfect for that. You get 2 hearts of different styles that you could turn into flowers if you stamp them multiple times around. You could turn those into flowers. This one could be a 4-leaf lucky clover as well. And then you get these 3 gorgeous ones here, which are those ones that I'd used on those earlier cards, stamping the 3 of them together in the Lost Shadow Distress Oxide, and they look so brilliant. But definitely, if you could only get one set from this collection and you wanted to get a set, I would say get this one. I think it's the best one, you know, for just having one set. All of the others are very mix and matchy. They'll all work with each other, so it doesn't really matter which ones of those you get. But if you just wanted one standalone set, I would say get this one. And I've done 4 different cards with this one. So this one is just really, really simple. Just stamping 3 flowers. I used the taller one in the centre and then the stubbier one on the 2 ends. I didn't use this one on it. And I've drawn my own ground in there just using a black pen. I've also drawn my own bumblebee. One of the sets that I didn't get does actually have a bumblebee in it, but I love drawing my bumblebee, so I drew that and added it in. It works really nicely with the style. You can see how if I could consistently draw in the style of my bumblebee, these flowers would work absolutely perfectly with it. And I've just coloured them in with my Copics, and then I have used some clear Stardust Sakura Jelly Roll pen just to add some extra doodly kind of details onto them as well. I really love how simple that is, but how effective it is. And obviously you can change it out for whatever colours you want as well. And then I've just finished it off with a wordie. Instead of using one of the sentiments from the set, I wanted a long skinny sentiment rather than a blocky kind of sentiment. So I just used Sending You Lots of Love, which is from one of the sets of wordies that Creative Expressions do. Then I did a set of 3. So I'll bring this set in as well to show you. Oh, did I tell you what this one was called? Yeah, I did. It was called Happy Soul, yes. So I'll bring this set in as well, because this was the sort of main set that I was showing in these 3 cards, but it goes along with those florals. This is the Doodle Stitches. So it is 6 different Doodle Stitch designs. And on that original card that I showed you here, this is this one, and I just stamped it. Didn't bother about it overlapping. I didn't really care that it overlapped. I just stamped a border around this sentiment, trimmed it up to there with my scissors when I was cutting it out, and then I just coloured all the stripes different colours. But you wouldn't really tell that it's this kind of a dashed border, would you? But it looks really nice to do that kind of thing with it. But the whole purpose of this was I put 5 of them together. So I think I used all... No, I did use that one in the end. Which one didn't I use? Oh, I didn't use that one, which I'd used on that card. So I used all these 5 and placed them close together on an acrylic block. So I used a sort of like a 5x7 kind of acrylic block, placed them all next to each other, a bit closer than they are on the packaging, in whatever kind of order I wanted. Then inked them up with Versamark and clear heat embossed them onto background. So this one, I stamped the whole thing 3 times to fill up the whole background. This one I did the collection once diagonally, and this one I did the collection once vertically on the backgrounds, just to create some different kind of looks for the cards. And then I did the clear heat embossing, could be white heat embossing as well, but I was working onto white cards, so clear heat embossing worked perfectly. And then I just ink blended the backgrounds to make those designs pop out. This one was Wilted Violet and Villainous Potion. This was Tumble Glass and Salty Ocean. This one was Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn to do my ink blending on those. And then I took the darker colour of each of the inks and again used those 3 doodly ones from this floral set, the Happy Soul set, to add those little extra details on there as well. And this bit was actually covering up a mistake. When I was putting this card together, I must have still had some black ink left on my mat, and I'd pressed the card obviously upside down to press it flat so it would, you know, the panel would stick to the card blank, and I got a little bit of black on there, so I used the sand eraser, then put a bit more blue ink on it, and then stamped some of those over the top to disguise it. And I did also still put some of them in the background on this one as well, and I also splattered with water to give a sort of lovely effect in the background. And similar to that previous card I showed you with this as the border, I used the dot and dash one to create a border around all of these ones, and then just trimmed them out and left them black and white, and they look really lovely, just making the background colourful but leaving the focal point black and white. And then again I wanted sort of like a long skinny sentiment, so I just used my vintage Dymo labeler to create my little sentiment. So I did Get Well Soon, Happy Birthday and Thank You, and then I've just done one of the gorgeous flowers on each, and again I have accented them with some doodling in the clear Stardust Jelly Roll Sakura pen. So really pretty, little bit of sparkle on them. It just adds a little bit of extra that you can't really see on camera, but if you give it to someone in person they'll be like, oh, it's got a lovely little bit of sparkle on there. So, you know, gorgeous little collection of cards. That could be a nice little set of note cards to give someone as a gift as well, and it doesn't take too long to do, especially when you've put 5 of those border stamps onto the block. You know, you can multiple stamp it 2 to 3 times to complete a whole background as well, which is really nice. So that's those ones. So the next set is the overall kind of doodled kind of set. So if you just want something really beautiful to colour in, then this set would be a fantastic one to go with. And this actually includes, I don't know if it includes all of the big floral sets, but it includes a few of them. One of the ones I've already shown you, this one here. So you can see here, this is a smaller version of this with that inside it. And there's also, I think one of the other sets I haven't shown you yet is this one. And I presume some of these other ones are probably in the other sets that I haven't got hold of as well. But she's got gorgeous smaller florals. So if you wanted to, you could stamp this tone on tone in the background. Or maybe, I love using the Lost Shadow Distress Oxide to do a subtle background. And then you could pick out one of the larger florals and put that over the top of it as well. Would work really nicely. But this is the Petal Doodles, all bunched up, this one, so it's a gorgeous bunch of all of the different designs together with some gorgeous leaves poking out too. And this is the original way I decided to create a card for this one. So I coloured the whole background, then I used one of Sue Wilson's double stitch Noble collection, the circles, cut an aperture out of there, and then I went back to the next set that I'm going to show you that has the wording Think Happy Thoughts, stamped that on a piece of white card, stuck it behind the aperture with 3D foam, and then just doodled my own border around it. And then to go along with Jane's style, she has a lot of like dots featuring in the design, so I did scribbly border and then I just put a few dots in there to kind of tie it in with the same style as the flowers and stuff as well. So really simple, this one. I was just using lots of desaturated Copic colours. If you are interested, I won't do this for every single sample, but I was using this selection here, so the BG 70s 2, 5 and 8. Then I was also using these ones here, which is the B90s 5, 7 and 9 to colour in these sort of navy blues. These are really lovely colours for like denim jeans, those ones. Then the purples that I was using are, there. Are these ones, 22, 25 and 28 in the V's, so a lovely desaturated purple. And then the desaturated yellow is these two here, the Y21 and Y26, are really nice for a kind of desaturated yellow. And then the greens, I use my favourite combination of YG03 and YG17, and I did come back in with a little bit of G43 and colour over the top to kind of desaturate them a little bit more, because I coloured the green first and then decided decided I wanted really desaturated colours for the rest of it. But that is the colour scheme I used for this one. I thought I'd only just coloured this one this morning, so I thought, well, I remember exactly what colours I used. I might as well show you what they were. So that was my original idea, and then obviously I was like, well, I know I'm going to have that circle left over, and I just coloured the whole thing so that I, you know, wasn't missing somewhere that I needed to have coloured. So I had the little circle that's beautifully coloured, so I just took that out, plonked it on another card, and then just decided around it what I wanted to add to it. So it's actually the last set that I'm going to show you that this gorgeous flower is from, and these leaves are from, but this is one of those Doodles borders. So this gorgeous one, I really like this one. It's just got scribbles with lines between them, and I used that as the stem for my flower. So I will quickly show you that stamp set now. This one is the Live Life, and I used that gorgeous like large sunflowery daisy kind of flower, and then just put the die cut circle over the top, so it makes it look like a completely different flower because you've now made the centre of this one larger with that circle that goes over the top. Then I've done that gorgeous doodly border as the stem, and then I've used the fantastic leaves on this one. I did a card mostly just with these leaves as well that I'll show you in a minute, and I coloured them in the same colours. So at first I took all of those desaturated, you know, the green, the purple and the blue, and coloured the stripy portions down here, and then I thought, well, I know you don't get leaves that have purple and blue on them, but you also don't get leaves that have, well, I suppose you do get leaves that have yellow on them, but anyway, I thought, well, I might as well tie the yellow down there as well, so the stripy bit along the edge I coloured with the yellow tones as well, just to tie it all together, and I really like how that one turned out. That was just like a bonus card using the waste from a previous one. So whenever you do aperture cards like that, do colour the whole image, because you never know what kind of serendipitous card you're going to be able to create with the extra die cut that you cut out of a panel. So I really like how that one turned out. So that's that one, and those two were using mostly the All Bunched Up set. Then the next set is this one, which is called Happy Thoughts. So it's really easy actually. The way she has named them is whichever the sentiment is, that's kind of what gives you the name of the set, which is really nice. It means you don't have to think, oh, what kind of flower was it on that set? She's actually just named them after the wording rather than what kind of flower is in there. But this set is another really gorgeous one. I did only do one card with this one again, but again I love this doodly one, and I love the spotty stamp that's in here too. You also get this gorgeous one, which I didn't end up using, but it's kind of like the reverse of a gorgeous flower, because it's in a circle with little dash lines around. This would look fantastic just to build up a background. And also this one as well, a solid kind of daisy design. You get a gorgeous dragonfly in this one. So one of the other die sets has the bumblebee inside the centre of the flower as well. I love the leaves on this one too. Really, really pretty leaves, the way they've got the extra sort of stem in the centre. And again, I have coloured them green on mine, but you don't have to just go with green. If you had coloured the petals on the flower rainbow, colour the outside green and use the rainbow colours to fill in those inside pieces as well, just to give it a different look. And I also love the extra flower that you get in this set as well, a really gorgeous daisy kind of flower, which you could stamp all over a background using that technique with the acetate, so you don't keep making smudgy dirty marks all over your cardstock. And then you could colour them in all sorts of different colours as well, or you could just stamp them with an acrylic block and a sticky ink pad and heat emboss them, and then do like a resist with ink blending over the top. So many different ways that you can use all of these gorgeous doodly designs, and also obviously you can stamp the sentiment inside the flower as well. And you've got Think Happy Thoughts, which is the one that I used on that previous card that I just showed you too. So this is the card that I created with that stamp set. So really, really simple. And actually in the centre of this one, I used that gorgeous little swirl stamp to actually add some detail in the centre. This card was actually using distress watercolour pencils. My lovely friend Lourdes just sent me those as a gift, so I've been using them on a few different cards recently, and I just had to use them on these gorgeous designs. And there's so many different ways of using the distress watercolour pencils. You can use them really lightly to get a gorgeous pastel kind of colour tone, or you can go back in with your brush directly to the pencil and pick up more concentrated pigment and get brighter colours as well. And actually for this card, I don't know if you can see it if I tip it in the light. you can see that the outline is heat embossed with clear, but can you see the sparkle in the actual, you can see it really in the centre of the flower. That is because instead of using just a water brush, this is a water brush, but I took some Cosmic Shimmer Opal Blaze polish in the blue raspberry colour, tipped it into the barrel of my water brush first. I made sure to like water it down, and then I put it in the water brush and added more water to it. So I've now got an Opal Blaze water brush. You can see here some of the pigment or the sparkliness in there, and it hasn't seemed to clog this one. This is a mini Arteza one that came in a mini watercolour set, but it hasn't seemed to have clogged this yet. And I did go for a mini one, you know, just so you would use it up quicker than if you had a large water brush full of this. But using that to pull out your distress watercolour pencils gives a beautiful look. And because I've done this a lot with watercolour pencils and the Tonic Studios Aqua Shimmer Glitter Gloss pen, but I thought, well, why can't you do it with other things, but just making your own sort of version of an Aqua Shimmer? So I thought, well, the gorgeous Opal Blaze is one of my favourite Cosmic Shimmer products. Why don't you just water some of that down and put it in a water brush, and it works really well. So you can actually do that kind of thing too. So that's how I did the watercolouring on this. The background is also with the watercolour pencils. I think this was Salvage Patina and possibly Salty Ocean or Mermaid Lagoon, something like that. Or it could have been Peacock Feathers, actually. I can't remember which colours I use now. But I just did subtle colouring and then blended it out just with a water brush that time. So the image is sparkly with the Opal Blaze, and the background is done just with a water brush. And then I stamped on some of those gorgeous dotty details. I also, as well as doing the swirly designs in the centre of the flower, I also stamped them in the background, and then I put a large water crystal over them, so it kind of magnifies that little swirl in areas as well, which I thought was quite a nice different touch. And then instead of putting that large sentiment in the centre, because I had used the Distress watercolour pencils, they're kind of a little bit more on the oxide sort of side rather than the ink side, so I wasn't sure if I stamped over them whether the black would become really dull. You know how when you stamp over an oxide it kind of becomes dull because that oxidationness sort of comes over the top of the black. I thought that might happen, so instead I just decided to use one of the wordies, so I did "Thank you, my dear friend" as the sentiment on that, and I think it turned out really, really nicely. So that is using the Happy Thoughts stamp set. And then finally, the last stamp set that I have out of the 12 different sets to show you is this one, which is called Live Life, because the sentiment is says "Create a life you love." So really gorgeous sentiment. This is another really nice one, actually. You know, to get hold of, and I didn't even think when I was creating that flower for this one that could definitely be used as a stalk. I went for one of the borders instead because I had these already out on acrylic blocks, you see, so I wasn't sort of looking at the packaging when I thought to do this. So you could definitely just use the one that comes in here to be able to do the stalk on the flower as well. You don't have to use one of the borders, but if you want to mix and match them up, or maybe your set doesn't have a border in it, 'cause some of them don't, you can use that border to create a stem as well. So you could definitely do that with just with this set and that scribbly one. So yeah, this is the Live Life set, and it's got that stunning large, I coloured it as a sunflower, but it could be a daisy as well. And if we go back to this one, you can see here how this is that daisy, and she has put that stamp inside the centre of it. So you can put that inside the centre, you can put the sentiment in there, you can have the ladybird in there, you can leave it open, whatever you prefer really for whatever style of card you're going for. But really, really gorgeous. I adore the leaves on this one, they're so beautiful, and I also think they could look like pea pods as well. And I guess these could kind of be sort of peas, like abstract peas, and you could do some kind of like pea pod with a punny sentiment or something as well. But this was the first card that I did with this set, which is using the gorgeous large flower, turning it into a sunflower, and also on that previous set with the swirly designs, I stamped some of those swirly designs in the centre of the flower as well. I've used the gorgeous little ladybird there, I've used the two gorgeous leaves there as well, which actually, poking out like that, they could be the wings of a bug as well. If you got the bug set, you could actually create your own kind of bug using these as like extra large wings on it as well, and maybe using like a head from one of the other beetles or something. That would work really nicely. I did also use the swirly stamp in the background just a few times to add some detail. I also inked over Francoise's, I think it's called like Broken Mesh or something, the stencil from a little while back, just to give some interest to the background, and I splattered it with water. I've used water crystals on here, and again I've used that sentiment, but I've drawn my own box around it, but put dots in there to emulate the style that Jane has drawn the stamps in, so it kind of all goes together. And I was also thinking you could have another ladybird here and then maybe one down here to balance it as well, you know, to add some more interest into the card and bring that pop of red through the card to sort of fill up this little gap a little bit more as well. But I really like how that one turned out. And then the final card that I did was literally just using those gorgeous leaves and the ladybirds and the dotty kind of stamp from this set just to create a sort of strip of design. And I've used a wordie as the sentiment that says "have a wonderful day," and then this is also done with the Distress watercolour pencils. So I picked out a rainbow of colours and used them to colour the main stripes on the leaves, and then the rest of the leaf I did just with greens. I've done a little bit of blue tones in those spots, and I've done a gorgeous red for the ladybirds as well. And I just watercoloured this out with a normal water brush, so it's just flat colour from the watercolour pencils. But I did also scribble out some of the peacock feathers Distress watercolour pencil and water it down and splat it from the water brush as well. So if you don't have Distress ink pads, you can do a lot of the techniques that you would do with an ink pad with the watercolour pencils, because you can stamp with them as well. They don't give the same effect as an ink pad, but you definitely can stamp with them and get different effects as well. So that is the final card that I did, and I used quite a few of the water crystals on that card as well. I just think they're so beautiful, those water crystals. They're from Creative Expressions as well. So I hope you enjoyed this up-close video looking at Jane Gill's doodled collection of gorgeous stamps. I absolutely adore these. There are 12 stamps in the collection. I've only got 8 of them to show you, but hopefully just from the ideas that I have shown you here, hopefully you've got inspiration to be able to use the other sets as well, because a lot of them are on a similar theme, just with a different kind of floral design within them. And I think there are so many different things that you can do with these. They're such bright, fun cards as well. Obviously I've used quite bright colours, but I think they just cheer you up. I felt so cheerful and happy just making all of these cards, so I feel like they're a really lovely card to send somebody who's a bit down at the moment, or maybe they've been ill or been in hospital or just need cheering up really. A really lovely collection of stamps to be able to make a lovely cheerful card for somebody. So really hope you enjoyed this up close video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye!